Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at our next business success webinar. Today, we'll be talking all about the secrets of succession planning. We have two wonderful, great guests today. We have Jeffrey Nail and Tylene Henry, who will be presenting today's presentation. Just a couple housekeeping rules here. If you have any questions, please include them in the chat or raise your hand. We'll go ahead and reserve some time at the end to answer questions. So be prepared for that. And also, you'll be receiving the recording along with the slides of today's presentation in our post-event email. So that'll be sent out later on today. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll also be sharing Tylene and Jeffrey's contact information should you have any additional questions after today's webinar. But with that, I'd like to introduce Tylene and Jeffrey to go ahead and kick off today's presentation, and appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate the Arizona Hispanic Chamber for welcoming us to come and share this information. It's always great to connect with other fellow business owners. Jeffrey and I have been working on a team for a few years now. I've been in this financial planning space for the past, say, 8 years now. So time is rolling really fast, but I've been in the financial services industry for 17 years. And one of the reasons that I got into this space is just because through my work as an associate financial advisor, I saw the benefits that families that had established legacy had experienced as a result of plans that were done for them before they were even born. And so I really thought it was important to be able to share this information with my community and with people that I know quite often are not always going to have that immediate access, because again, when we're talking about legacy and things that were done generations before, some of us are first generation business owners, and so we may not have some of those resources that some of the larger firms, and you can be considered a small business and be doing, millions of dollars a year and still be a small business, right? And so just really being able to connect ideas, resources, and relationships. We really have a passion to be able to serve people that, especially people that we feel like are not necessarily being served. And so we just encourage everyone to feel comfortable to drop questions in the chat. We really want it to be engaging, and we really want to focus in on our audience's questions and concerns and the things they want to explore. It's going to be a very, I don't want to say very high level view, but we won't get into nuts and bolts, because one of the things that's essential with any type of financial planning or strategy is that any recommendations that you get are going to need to be specific to your unique situation and your unique goals. And so, we won't be giving any recommendations today, but our goal is really to just provide you with an overview of what your options are as far as succession planning, and be sure to show you the parallels between planning for your business and planning for your family, because many of us that are business owners, we're also the breadwinners for our family. And we think that it's significantly important that we keep those things top of mind. And I'm going to divert over to Jeff so he can give you some information about himself, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, team. Well, as Tylene mentioned, I'm just going to co-sign just for the sake of time. But, we've been in, I've been in the financial industry for about 20 years. My goal within the financial industry has been to kind of help to close the wealth gap. Give some of the knowledge that we spend our days and weeks and months and years in. There's a lot of information. If you Google search, retirement or, succession planning or any of the financial services buzzwords, there's not going to be a shortage of information. So our goal is really to filter some of that information. As Tylene mentioned, we talk at a high level to encourage additional conversation, because, the financial services industry, although it's a lot of people, speaking and giving, great advice, the advice is really determined on what your specific situation is. So we just kind of want to plant those seeds, give you a few nuggets, a few ideas to, potentially vet your current strategies, and encourage you all to speak to a professional, whether that's us or someone else, to to put a solid foundation in place and, take some of the benefits from these risks that we take as business owners. And honestly, when we say business owners, I want to encourage you all to be open-minded to think about non-business owners as well, because whether you're running your life or your household, you are a business owner. There's a profit and loss statement where what's coming in, where you're supposed to know what's coming in, and what's going out, what that difference is, and putting some things in place that make daily living a little bit easier and make us able to navigate some of life's lemons a little bit more favorably.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's all about that freedom of choice, right? It's great to live and enjoy our lives, but it's even better when we can have more control over our choices. So, all right, well, we're gonna get it rolling today. Before we get started, anyone who's in the audience, can you drop in the chat how many years you've been in business? And if you haven't started your business yet, and maybe you're in the process of planning, you can tell us that too. But we'd love to know a little bit more about our audience so we can be sure that we, tailor some of this information towards you all. So please, if you are not familiar with Zoom, you should have a dashboard at the bottom of your screen, and there should be a chat function. All right, we've got some things coming through here. 5 years, awesome, awesome. Okay, excellent. Okay. So we're gonna get right in here. And so we're gonna just talk about some of these success planning secrets. All right, so here's our disclosure. We're not making any specific legal or tax advice. We are not authorized to give any tax or legal advice. And so we are really just seeking to provide you with some information so that you can be more empowered in your decision-making. And congratulations to those of you that are exploring new businesses. That's a very exciting journey, and you are gonna be leaps and bounds beyond many of us by getting exposure to this information on the front end. So, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about our financial well-being. And so what does that mean? It's making sure that we have control over our day-to-day and month-to-month finances. That's the same with our business as well as with our household. Making sure that if something we don't plan for happens, that it doesn't throw us off our journey to whatever our end goal or our personal idea of success for our household or our business may be. And then also making sure that we're on track to meet our financial goals. So we often have our goals that we may have for our household or for ourselves personally, as well as for our business. And then having the freedom to make the choices that allow us to enjoy our lives. And so, what's critically important throughout this conversation that we'll have is that, your personal finances and your business finances are very much so parallel. And so it's very difficult to operate in silos and only focus on your business or only focus on your personal finances because they impact one another. And so we're going to encourage you throughout the conversation here to really think about these topics and strategies, not only for your business, but also for your personal finances. So, why do businesses fail after the first generation, right? So these are just some statistics, right? And so as you see here, businesses have a difficult time surviving through multiple generations. And oftentimes it has to do with a lack of having a plan or a strategy. And so all of us want to have businesses that if we want them to go through generations, that we can. And so we're going to help you with some steps to do that. Now, here is, the primary reasons why many businesses don't make it through more than one generation. Many of them don't have a written succession plan. If you guys can drop in the chat whether or not you've heard of succession planning or Googled it before or are familiar with it, we'd love to know that. 54% don't have a buy-sell agreement, which we'll go into a little bit more detail. If you're not familiar with what a buy-sell agreement is, we'll go into some more detail with that later. And then also, many businesses don't have anything in place at all. So, you know, one thing to not have a written plan, but some people do have something verbally worked out with a family member or a business partner as far as how they plan for the business to continue on, whether it's, you know, a voluntary leave from the business or involuntary. So sometimes people don't plan to retire, but you might get sick or hurt or pass away prematurely. We want to make sure that all the hard work that we've done to establish a business and serve our clients, that we can be able to continue those businesses on. So why don't people have plans in place, right? So can anybody drop in the chat, why do you think, you know, why do you think people don't have plans in place? Many of us love our businesses so much that we're like, we're never going to retire. You know, some of us feel like, hey, you know, my son or daughter is going to take over it. Time, thanks, Michael. Absolutely, time is an issue. Exactly, not being sure about what to do. And an awesome job, Christina, being here today and getting some information for your business. But absolutely, I mean, these are reasons why people don't have succession plans in place. As well, these are the same reasons why many people may not have a plan in place for their personal finances, for their household.
Yeah, a lot of times we find ourselves riding around like the horses in Times Square with the blinders on, so we can't see what's going on to the left and the right, and we're just focused in on that end game. And a lot of times that can put us in a precarious position in terms of not being prepared for life's potholes and limits.
Absolutely. And sometimes later never comes. So, you know, one of the things we have to do as leaders and business owners is to make the time. And sometimes what we do is, you know, Jeff and I, we schedule time for business planning. If we didn't put it on the calendar, then it wouldn't happen. And so we literally put time on the calendar at least once a month to review what our goals are, you know, review, you know, how are we serving our clients? What's working? What can we do better? You know, what are challenges that we're having, you know, and so it's going to be critically important that, you know, those of you that are starting your businesses, that you schedule time to actually work on your business and not just in your business. So, you know, what's keeping us up at night? I don't know if anyone else has anything. You know, what are the top things that you are concerned about as far as it comes to your finances for your business or personal? If you can drop it in the chat if you feel comfortable. We'd love to hear what are some of the things that are most concerning, top on your list that kind of, even if it's not keeping you up at night, it's one of those kind of pain points that when you think about it, it's kind of like, ooh, you may not even want to necessarily think about it because sometimes there may be a lot of questions that we may not have the answers to. But most of America's financial concerns are the same for businesses and people who are running households and their personal finances. You know, the income or cash flows, your savings, you know, capital available to be able to take on new projects or start new projects or take on new clients, savings available for the household in the event of an emergency or even a family vacation, retirement, you know, across the board, same for the household, same for the business. You know, how am I going to exit my business or what happens when I get ready to retire? And then debt. So households and businesses typically have challenges with debt. And of course, if you have any questions so far, please feel free to drop them in the chat. So what's succession planning? Okay. So, you know, it's a term that gets thrown around quite often. And typically just the process of planning for your day, for the day that you get ready to step down from your business. You know, and maybe you're not leaving your business altogether, but maybe you're not going to continue to take on the level of engagement that you have with your operations. Maybe you're not going to be, maybe you're going to have someone else doing your sales. Succession planning is essentially making sure that you as a business owner have the ability to not be in your business every day. And so some people, it's different levels of event. At the beginning, it may be that, you know, someone's taking on some of your role, and then midway, someone may be doing all of the duties that you do. But in most cases, many of us that may have built a business over several years, it may not be realistic that one person is going to be able to come in and do everything that you've learned how to do over the past several years. And so in a lot of situations, it's a matter of documenting the processes and making sure that someone else can be able to come in and run the business. And that may be more than one person.
And Tylene, I would just add as well and bring additional light to what you just said. You know, a lot of times we find ourselves in survival mode in terms of whether it's our household or our business, where we're just like surviving. You know, we've taken a couple blows, you know, that we weren't expecting, and we survived, and we're proud of that. But a lot of times we need to take ourselves out of the household or out of the business and get a second set of eyes on our strategies and our plans to make sure that our lifestyle makes sense. You know, we get trapped in survival mode and fail to realize that there's a thriving mode as well. You know, and we want to be thriving. That's the whole reason why we take the risks for our household and for our businesses, you know, in terms of our employment and, you know, trading our employment time for our, you know, for our personal time and vice versa. So you want to make sure that, you know, we're not moving backwards or moving in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. So why is it so important? Similarly to what Jeff just said, I mean, you know, we don't want to continue to be in survival mode. You know, almost half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, you know, for business owners, contract to contract. You know, 70% of us don't have enough in our emergency savings. So if something were to happen with our car or our roof or something, we may have to go into debt to be able to continue to move forward. You know, and then the median retirement savings of working age families is $5,000. And, you know, if you need $50,000 or $100,000 a year to maintain your household, I know there's this myth that once you get to retirement, you're going to have far less expenses. You know, that's typically not necessarily true. Maybe you'll experience a slight decline in your monthly expenses, but with, you know, considering inflation and everything, we really need to be able to maintain our income when we stop working. And so, you know, typically $5,000, no matter where you are in life, is not going to be enough to do that. And then another challenge too for some of us is student loan debt. And so these are just some of the reasons why this is such a pressing issue, and why we're so happy that you're here today to kind of have some conversation with us about the things that we may be able to do to prepare ourselves, our families, as well as our businesses. So what goes into a good succession plan? So number one, it's got to be documented. So it's great for me to say, okay, if something happens to me, Jeff, I want you to take over all of my clients, right? I want you to be, you know, the sole provider for my clients, and just make sure that we continue to service them the way that we have established. Well, that's great, but if I don't have anything in writing, then all of the contractual agreements that I have with my clients, they're not necessarily just going to transfer over to him. And so in every case, you've got to have a documented plan as to what's going to happen when you get ready to transition your practice or business. And that's not something that happens overnight. It's a process, but you want to put some goals. You know, there may be some financial goals associated with that. You want to identify who you want to be your successor, who you want to own who you want to have own your business. So you may have a successor that's going to run your business in day-to-day operations, but you may still want for your family or a partner to maintain ownership of your business. Looking at the management, how does your business transfer over? You know, is it going to change names? Will it stay the same? If you have a business that, let's say, is a minority certified business, you know, can that certification transfer over? And then you got finances. And again, we're not getting into the nuts and bolts, but these are just some things that you can think about. And again, it's just Rome wasn't built in a day. So you just kind of look at one thing, you start with your goals of what your desired outcome looks like, and then you just kind of start to work backwards and just chip away at it until you get to a point where you feel confident that your business will be able to transition successfully the way that you want it to. Your clients will not be disrupted. They'll still be able to receive the same level of same product, same valuable product or the same level of service that you provide. And so these are just some things that you want to do. And then of course you've got to communicate that plan. So some of us may have completed or had some of these ideas, but if we don't communicate it to anyone, it's very difficult for your plan will not be implemented.
Yeah, and I would also add, you know, the business is not necessarily different from the individual again. So, you know, you want to have these same things in place for your family, you know, and have an estate plan, a will, things in writing, especially if you have, you know, siblings or, you know, multiple children, you know, same way with the business. You know, you want to have things in writing so there's no confusion or gray areas where things can be manipulated or interpreted.
Absolutely. And I know that all of us love our families. We love the people who work for us and support us in our businesses. And, you know, if the succession plan is triggered as a result of a, you know, untimely death of someone, you know, we really want folks to be in a position where they can grieve and they don't have to worry about going back and forth about what your wishes were because they've been documented and communicated to everyone. And so again, that's the same, just similar to what Jeff said with our families. We want to make sure that we have those things in place. So these are the golden rules, the secrets, for lack of better words. So you want to know what your options are, which we're going to share with you. There's 6, you know, pretty much 6 options that for exiting the business, common options. We're going to share those with you. You want to know the value of your business, right? So if you were going to sell your business, or let's say you're in a partnership and, you know, you want out, you have to have a value of the business to be able to draw some of those financial, you know, conclusions. You want to select and prepare the right successor. So, you know, our kids may not be the best successor. The person who's working with us may not be the best successor. You really have to look at the skill set and the talent and then go from there to be able to identify who can best continue your business, you know, based upon whatever mission, vision, and values that you have put into play and whatever type of technical services or products that you're providing. Make sure it's in writing. And when we talk about funding it properly, we'll get to that a little bit in the end. But, you know, if I'm going to sell my business, my share of our business to Jeffrey, typically there has to be some funds. And so there's different ways that you can have funds available to transfer the ownership of the business. And then make sure you're looking over your plan at least every 3 years and updating it as you need to. And so we're at the first step. You get to check one off the list. You're learning about your options. Jeff?
Absolutely. And in terms of having it in writing, you know, minimally, you can take it to your bank and get it notarized to make it stand up in the court of law, just in case we weren't all on the same page there.
So you got to know your options, right? So everybody's going to leave their business sometime or another, whether we want to or not, everyone's going to leave. So that's 100% there. So it doesn't matter if we plan to or not, it's just whether or not it's going to be on our terms. And so if we don't put a plan in place, then, you know, kind of we're going to be subject to whatever happens. And then, you know, you guys are learning your options now. And even though this is going to be a high level overview, you're going to have a different level of awareness if you hadn't had it before. So here are the 6 ways that you can exit your business, okay? So there's private equity, you've got employee stock ownership plans or ESOPs, you've got a gift to a family member, you could sell to an outside buyer, it could be management, so like an inside buyout, so maybe you've been training a successor, you've been working with someone and developing them over time, and they're going to buy you out of the business, either in a lump sum or over time. And then you could potentially liquidate your business. Some of the top, you know, ways that we see people exiting is either a gift to a family member, the management or inside buyout, and then also potentially selling to an outside buyer. So When you want to know the true value of your business, how do you do that? So this was a survey that was asked, how do you know the value of your business? 46% said a CPA would do it. 31% said they'd use a business valuation service company. And then 25% said that they would do it themselves. Has anyone in our audience, have you had your business evaluated, or have you even yourself, put a value on your business? If you could tell us in the chat, yes, if you have explored this before or have an idea of what you feel like the value of your business is worth. And again, when business owners do it themselves, statistics say that they typically undervalue their business by as much as 59%. And let's see, did we have any participation in the chat? Anybody thought about the value of their business? Awesome. Well, now we've got something to think about.
And for those folks that are, exploring at this time, or again, not business owners, keep in mind, the value of your household, how much debt you've accumulated, how much wealth you've accumulated, and, finding that delta in terms of, how much income you're bringing in on an annual basis.
So these are some reasons why business owners want evaluations. It helps them to manage, kind of measure the success. They know kind of how they compare in the marketplace. They can prepare their business to sell it, and then they can also know whether or not it's going to provide them sufficient resources for retirement. And that's the same as with your household, right? So you want to know, are your family's finances or is your household expenses, is it healthy? Are you spending more than you have coming in? Is your debt too high? All of these things are going to be very similar to how you're thinking about the health of your business and how you're thinking about, accumulating some wealth and assets for your household. And they're very closely related because, again, many business owners, they are the breadwinners for their household. So it's critically important to be aware of the health and knowing what your cash flows, what's coming in, what's going out. Is your business growing? And really identifying what's making the most money. Many people may offer different products and services. It's often not until the evaluation is done that you really may be able to look and identify, hey, we could make a greater return on this service or this product than we do on any of the others. Maybe we should focus more efforts on this particular area of our business. Same thing with our households. We get much more value out of, investing than we do, buying dinner. So maybe we're going to choose to do that instead. So it's really just a matter of having that view and having an outside evaluation of the nuts and bolts of your business or your household finances. Why do you need the valuation? Well, sometimes you might have multiple owners. And in order to fund a buy-sell agreement, you have to know how much the value of your business is. If you want to fund your retirement, helps you to know what your nest egg might be like at the end of the road. And then if you want to sell, you got to know, what are you going to ask or what are you going to accept? Because people may be knocking at your door wanting to buy your business, but you've got to know what's fair to accept. And we all don't want to just accept the first thing someone offers us. We really want to have a good understanding of the true value of our business. And then also it can help with estate planning. So when our businesses reach the multi-million-dollar level and estate taxes are an issue, we definitely want to make sure that we can plan for that as well. Any questions for so far? Aha moments, things that have shocked you or maybe you weren't aware of. We really do encourage you to drop it in the chat because we want to make sure that we can engage you. And if you have, some aha moments, someone else might be having those too. That's the same as with questions. So we encourage you to put those in the chat. So anyone who's been in business for a while and have kids that, could potentially be, able to take over the business. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. This is a kind of funny one. We've got a beaver here And the young fella is saying, sorry, Dad, but my true passion is for making furnitures, not dams, right? So this is often the case with a lot of family-owned businesses that we come across. The kids may or may not have any interest. I mean, at least this kid wants to build too, even though he wants to build something different. But, you know, I've seen families with wildly successful businesses and their kids are like, no, thanks. I have no interest.
And we've got Michael Dominguez in the chat just stated that he was very surprised with the over-under estimates of business owners and the value of their companies.
Absolutely. I was too. Because when I think of, my business, I feel like it's worth far more than most other people may think. And so I was surprised that, many people undervalue their business. So just really high level overview, it's important to select and get the right person. So many people aren't even aware they're the successor. So your oldest child may not even know that they were the one that was supposed to be taking over the business. The person who helps you with your day-to-day operations and management, if you don't tell them, they may not even know. 1 out of every 3, they haven't established a successor development plan. So even though they may be able to handle your operations or your sales or communicating with your clients, there's still going to be those elements that you're doing that they need to be aware of so that they can continue your business and make sure it keeps on growing and thriving. 1 out of every 2, it's really hard to pass on the baton. I mean, you've been putting your heart, sweat, and tears into this for years, right? And so now you're just supposed to hand it over to someone, but if we don't have a plan, then I think many of us would rather our businesses continue on than for them to just stop going. And so if we don't take the steps that we need to, it doesn't even have the chance to carry on without us. So these are some things you can do to help get that person ready, or if you think someone might be a good candidate, making it clear to what's necessary to lead your company. Figure out if there's any other future leadership needs. So if I've got a finance background and I'm managing the finances for the business, my successor may have to hire a controller or someone to handle that for them. And then having a plan. Here are the steps. First, we're going to have you do operations. Then we're going to have you do sales. Then we're going to have you do marketing. So kind of put together some sort of plan so that they can be developed over time. And it's not just one day that boom, here it goes. And then making sure that you have things coordinated amongst your family members that may be involved in the business and any key managers. And then it's also really great to use a mentor.
Yeah, I'd definitely second that and just bring additional light to the mentor aspect. I mean, again, whether this is business or personal, diversity in mentors is extremely important. I would say, people that, just experience life in different ways, whether it be, different ages, ethnic backgrounds, like even a business that might not be in line with your business. I just think that it's super important to have those aspects, and that allows you to, again, to the point that we made earlier, get outside of the business, get outside of your household to see what exactly your definition of normal is, and if that is the status quo of normal.
And so, we're back to one of the primary things that we discussed earlier, which is putting things in writing. So a buy-sell agreement is a legally binding agreement that requires one party to sell to another party to buy a particular ownership interest in a business in the event of a triggering event. Triggering events are usually death or disability. So, that buy-sell agreement means that your partner can't just sell your part of ownership of the business to someone else because you're gone. it means that you have something stipulated to indicate how your share of ownership is to be transferred. And the document is going to say how much one business owner will pay for the other person's share of the business, how the business will be evaluated, where is the money going to come from. So oftentimes people use life insurance to fund a buy-sell agreement. So when that triggering event happens, there's funds to go towards the buying out the other person's ownership. And then also the definition of disability. So there's a lot of different things that can happen that may enable us from being able to carry out our day-to-day business operations. And so that has to be clearly defined as well. And again, we're not going super deep, but we just want to make sure we give an overview of the things that you may want to take into consideration so that as you begin this process or you do your review process of what you already have in place, you have some additional, information to be able to make your decisions with. So here are some red flags, so if anybody already has a buy-sell, these are some things that you may want to be aware of when you do your review. And if you're preparing one, these are things that we want to be mindful of as well. So we want to make sure that they are established properly based upon your business type, entity type. You want to make sure that it's based upon the right number of business owners. Sometimes people will put a plan in place saying, oh, we're going to get somebody else in here to be a part owner or to make an investment or contribution, and that person may never come, or maybe they come, but the plan isn't properly updated to reflect that person as an owner. Your buy-sell agreement needs to account for death, disability, divorce, departure, and disqualification. Okay, so I think those are pretty clear, but if I'm married and Jeff and I have ownership in a business, there has to be something in there so that if I part from my husband, that we can equally divide, whatever would be his portion of my share of the ownership. Disqualification, if anyone does anything like with a law practice, if someone gets disbarred, there has to be some terminology and language in there for how the ownership will be dispersed after that. And then sometimes the definition of disability throughout the contracts may not be the same. So you want to make sure that that language is the same throughout your contract. If you haven't had a proper valuation on the business and you just threw a number out there, that could be problematic. If something happens to someone and, the business is really worth 50 million and you put in your agreement that it was worth 10, and then if it's not funded. And so it's relatively cost effective to use life insurance to fund your buy-sell agreement. And then as well, you've got to make sure that it's signed. So we find that with households as well. Some people will get a estate plan. It'll be fancy. It's great. It covers everything, but it may not have been signed, or the assets, or beneficiaries may not have been updated to the trust. So similarly to with your business and your household, it's very important that we address all of the challenges that may arise and make sure that we've clearly indicated what is the desired outcome and what do we agree upon that we want to have happen if something that we don't plan for comes up or we don't want to happen. Lemons, as Jeff mentions it. So here's an instance of a buy-sell agreement that never gets signed, right? So if you have a person that passes away and, the other individual doesn't, and there's not a signed buy-sell agreement, and it's supposed to be funded with life insurance, you end up in the situation where you're having probate and you're having, someone from the outside have to come in and make sense of it. And what is the problem with that? Well, if the family is reliant upon the funds to be able to continue their household, you have holdups there because the money can't be issued. If your business needs money or operating capital to keep going in your absence, or to hire someone to take on your duties and responsibilities, things are tied up until they get resolved. And so it's very important that we are making sure that we complete the process. Sometimes we feel great that we made it through, we got our final done, but if we don't sign our agreements, it's just like not having one. And then Jeff, if you want to, share here the go-to resources for succession planning.
Sure. So some resources, in terms of professionals. So, as Tylene mentioned, we're financial professionals. We aren't tax professionals or legal professionals. We know enough to be dangerous, but we know exactly where our expertise ends and someone else's begins also. So, I think mentors are a great way to vet some of your ideas that you may be thinking. But as much as possible, we want to utilize our resources. There are tons of resources online, as we mentioned prior, where you can, find it, I'm sure there's no shortage of attorneys that are willing to help. And there's also resources like the Bar Association. You can go on the Bar Association's website and you can actually get legal advice from people that are up and coming in the legal field. That do some pro bono work based on the income that you're bringing in. So, lots of resources there. And in terms of tax professionals, a CPA might not be on your radar right at the beginning, but that's definitely something to strive towards as well. Or a certified tax specialist. We definitely, there are some corners that you can kind of shave, but there's a reason why these folks go to school for a long time and get certified and have to do continuing education classes and all that good stuff. So I would say definitely don't shortchange yourself in trying to do everything DIY because there is definitely power in getting and knowing that things are done properly and having some legal contracts in place where if they aren't done properly, you have some reprieve.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that your chamber can also assist you with connecting with some of those resources and, some of the other technical assistance agencies that are available. So as we grow our business, we leverage, resources from our local chamber sometimes the SBDC, the SBA, even if it's just to kind of get some guidance on are there any resources available, because sometimes they will provide you with a certain number of hours from a particular, professional. Does anybody have any questions about any of these folks or professionals, experts? Has anyone talked to, or does anyone work with, a lawyer or CPA? If so, if you could just let us know in the chat. You don't have to tell us, the details, but does anyone, use any of these types of folks on your team or consult with them as you're conducting business?
So Michael Dominguez says that he works with a lawyer and a CPA for his businesses.
Awesome. And can you tell us, Michael, what was like the catalyst? Have you always worked with a lawyer or a CPA, or was there something that kind of made you say, okay, it's time for me to work with an expert in this space? Was there like an event or did a mentor? How did you come to work with those folks?
He's typing away. I can see the smoke coming from the sky. He's typing fast right now.
Mentor and experience in business to a higher professional. Okay, awesome. Love it, Michael. That is awesome. And that's excellent. And so a couple of characteristics is you want to make sure that they're working for you and not for their pockets. Anybody just coming to push you a product typically is not going to be someone who can help you. They've got to ask some questions about you. They have to ask you questions that sometimes may even make you uncomfortable, because it's hard to like, give all your personal information about your business that you're so passionate about, the strengths and the weaknesses, but it's very important. And then also sorry, go ahead.
I was bringing to attention Michael's additional quote. This might be the quote of the day for everyone. I get paid to help people make wine and build companies, not practice law and handle books. So there's always a fine line between what you want to sacrifice your specific passion and vision for, because again, it brings up that quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but you risk being the master of nothing if you want to do everything yourself, because there's only so much time in a day. And additionally to that time, I would rather deal with an expert in a specific area where I'm not comfortable in, rather than be average in that area and risk my business or my household.
I love this quote. I get paid to help people make wine and build companies, not practice law or handle my books. We're going to have to like literally put that on a quote and like share that, because that is the epitome of what we need folks to understand. So again, just kind of to summarize, your succession plan is a written plan for your day, for the day that you decide that you want to leave, or maybe you don't have a choice. You have to leave. You got sick, you got hurt, when you have to leave your business. And then you want to know these golden rules. You want to know your options. So we talked about those options, and then we also shared what the top ones are, which are typically someone in their family getting the business, selling the business, or someone who is working in the business in a management function, coordinating some sort of buyout plan. And then you want to make sure whoever's taking over your business, well, even if you're selling it to someone else, you still have to make sure that you prepare them to be able to continue your business on. You want to make sure you've got things in writing. And then again, just like with our estate plans for our home, all of these things are applicable to your personal finances for your household as well. You want to be reviewing your plan at least every 3 years. And of course, with your personal plan, you're usually going to be reviewing that at least once a year. Anything to add to this, Jeff?
No, I think you got it in a snapshot. I'd just be co-signing. I'm like the Zoom hype man over here.
Awesome. And so we really want you to, if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, we really want you to put it in the chat. And Michael, if you have any other nuggets, because like clearly it seems that you really have a good grasp and understanding of the importance of this, and you're here to gather more information. And so we really encourage you to, if you have anything, if everyone that's listening, if you can please drop in the chat, the most valuable or any nugget that you got out of today's conversation. And then anything that that you took some notes and said, I'm going to go look this up, or I'm going to look into this more. We would love to hear that, because we love to get your feedback, because we want to serve you and we want to make sure that you find value in these types of conversations and that you're able to feel like it was a good use of time. Because as business owners, I know everyone has tons of things that they could be doing right now. And we truly appreciate the opportunity to have your attention and to be able to share with you some of the things that we know to be critical when folks are looking at succession planning for their businesses, and then as well planning for their families. Because again, business owners typically are running a household as well. And we want to make sure that we can provide people with information that they can use in both spaces. Awesome. We've got some comments coming in. Excellent. Oh, we appreciate your encouragement, Karina. We're glad that you found it valuable. And then Michael, he said, rule number 2, business valuation, need to take some time to evaluate the value of your business. Yes, working on the business and not in it. Excellent. Excellent. And we have Rigoberto, who says he would be looking to find a CPA to begin starting his business team. Excellent. And if anybody else has any nuggets or things that they said, okay, I'm going to do this, something that you want to get done before the end of the year, we're all about goal setting and holding one another accountable to make sure that we do that, even if it's just a research component, even if it's just saying, okay, I'm going to put some time on my calendar in April when I get done with my getting my tax stuff in. I'm putting time on my calendar to make sure that I review and develop a strategy or plan to do my business planning and even my personal household financial planning. Can you guys tell us in the chat, do you have a written plan for your household, for your personal finances? So some goals about whether or not it's income or how much you want to save or, you know, investing. Does anybody have anything written down as far as your goals for your household? Okay, I don't know if someone may be typing. I want to make nothing there. Okay. Awesome. Michael's got monthly revenue goals. Excellent.
All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour here, so we want to be mindful of everyone's time. We definitely appreciate you all giving us the opportunity to speak. Hopefully, again, you walked away with some nuggets, or you know, just maybe strengthened or saw some vulnerability in your current strategies from a business or a personal perspective. And you know, if we can help answer any one-off questions, we're happy to do so. So feel free to reach out, whether it be by reaching out to your chamber leaders or our contact information right here.
Yeah. And I've dropped my financial Facebook page and LinkedIn information in the chat as well. And so we encourage you, if you reach out to Jeff, he's got a Calendly link and he'd be happy to get some time on our calendar, even if it's only for 15 to 30 minutes, if you want like a follow-up, you know, conversation to see what your next steps might look like, whether that's, you know, from documenting your personal financial plan or your business plan. And one of the key components for those of you who are starting new businesses is it's very helpful to have a good picture of what you have going on in your household, because then you know what your requirements are and what you need to, you know, keep the ship moving. And it gives you some targets as you're starting your business to make you feel comfortable and confident as you take that leap. Thank you, Michael. You gave some really great nuggets and contributions to today's conversation. So we appreciate you, and we thank you to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We truly appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all, and we just look forward to continuing to be a resource as the businesses continue to grow and thrive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tylene and Jeffrey. Wonderful presentation. And we look forward to having you both in a future presentation. I think this was really valuable, especially, you know, during today's tough economic times and the pandemic we're living in. So definitely very important information. So we'll be sharing Tylene and Jeffrey's contact information in our post-event email, along with the recording. If you happen to miss any moment of it, you could rewatch it. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, I don't see any other questions coming in. So we can go ahead and wrap it up. If you have any additional questions, you could contact them directly. But with that, thank you so much to you both, and look forward to working with you all again in the future.
Likewise, thank you.
Likewise.
Thanks.
I know.
Have a great afternoon. Finish strong. We know it's Thursday, but finish